Miyamoto Musashi, Japan, the undefeated swordsman. Musashi was born in 1584 during Japan's late Sengoku period, a time of constant civil war, roaming fighters, and duels settled by life or death. Physically, Musashi was large for his time, standing around 180 centimeters with a rugged, unkempt look. He killed his first opponent at 13 using a wooden staff, and spent the next decades traveling across Japan to challenge every skilled fighter he could find. Musashi fought with an unorthodox approach, often switching weapons mid-fight and eventually developing Niten Ichiru, the two-sword style that overwhelmed traditional samurai techniques. His most famous duel was against Sasaki Kojiro, feared for the swallow cut, a two-stage slash modeled after a swallow's tail in flight, designed to strike again even if the first swing misses. Musashi arrived late on purpose, carved a long wooden bokken from a boat oar. He positioned himself with the morning sun behind him, so Kojiro had to face the light. When Kojiro attacked, Musashi struck first and ended the fight in seconds. Musashi's record stands at over 60 confirmed duel victories, undefeated, the highest documented of any swordsman in Japan's history. Khanom Tom, Thailand. The father of Muay Thai, Khanom Tom lived during the late Ayutthaya period when the Kingdom of Siam, known today as Thailand, and Burma were locked in continuous war. Muay Baran at that time was a battlefield system built for hand-to-hand combat when blades were lost or broken. Fighters were trained to break an opponent's balance, overwhelm them with clinch pressure, and use elbows, knees, and highly technical strikes designed for fatalities. After Ayutthaya fell in 1767, he was taken captive to Burma. During a festival, the Burmese king wanted to test the fighting ability of Siamese warriors and sent him to face Burma's champions. Before engaging, he performed the Wai Kru ritual, which Burmese onlookers misunderstood as an attempt to use magic or sorcery. His first fight ended brutally fast. The Burmese king, shocked at how easily his champion was dismantled, immediately called for stronger fighters to step forward. He continued fighting one-on-one without rest, using pure Muay Baran, tight clinch control, sharp elbows, and technique that were beyond the knowledge of the Burmese. He defeated 9 elite Burmese fighters consecutively, all in a single session. The king was so impressed that he granted Khanom Tom his freedom and declared, "The land of Siam is blessed with venomous men. If the Siamese had fighters like this serving as their generals and nobles, no kingdom could ever stand against them." Jebe, Mongolia. The arrow that nearly killed Genghis Khan. Jebe was born Zugadai, a common steppe warrior. His rise began the day he shot an arrow that hit Genghis Khan in the neck during battle. Later, when captured, he openly admitted he fired the shot. Genghis respected the courage so much he spared him, renamed him Jebe, meaning arrow, and made him one of his personal frontline fighters. Jebe fought in the front of every charge. He was known for a signature Mongol technique, standing in the stirrups at full gallop to gain height, then firing long-range arrows with deadly accuracy while the horse was still sprinting underneath. His most iconic attack came against the Naimans. Jebe rode ahead of the Mongol army and charged their front line alone. He fired into their ranks to force them to chase him, then used the classic Mongol trick, twisting his torso backward while the horse ran forward, shooting over his horse's tail and killing pursuers without slowing down. The Naimans followed him straight into an ambush, and Jebe led the killing charge from the front. Jebe helped crush the Naimans, raided the Tangut and Jin, and led the Great Raid across Central Asia, a campaign that destroyed kingdoms and left tens of thousands dead under his command. Shaka Zulu, South Africa, the king of warfare. Shaka was born around 1787 in what is now KwaZulu-Natal. Physically, he was tall, lean, and heavily muscled. Shaka replaced the long-throwing spear with the short Ikhlawa stabbing spear, faster, deadlier, and meant for close-range kills. He paired it with the large cowhide shield that could trap an opponent's weapon, twist it aside, and open the target for a finishing thrust. His signature bull horns formation crushed larger armies. The chest, Shaka's strongest warriors, slammed into the enemy front to pin them in place. Then the horns, fast flanking units swept wide on both sides, curling inward until they surrounded the enemy in a tightening circle. No tribe in southern Africa had seen anything like it. Shaka's warriors marched barefoot over thorns to harden their feet, ran more than 50 kilometers a day, and were forced to fight in tight formations to build discipline and sharpen their killer instinct. Under Shaka's command, the Zulu became a dominant military power. His forces destroyed or absorbed over 40 neighboring tribes and expanded Zulu territory across more than 250,000 square kilometers.
Simo Häyhä, Finland, the White Death. Simo Häyhä was born in 1905 in rural Finland and grew up hunting in deep snow and dense forests. He was small, only about 160 centimeters tall. When the Winter War broke out in 1939, he joined the Finnish army as a sniper. He refused to use a scoped rifle because the reflection could expose his position. Instead, he used a simple iron sight Mosin Nagant and made accurate kills at 150 to 400 meters, distances where most snipers relied heavily on optics. He packed snow in front of his firing spot to stop muzzle flash, kept snow in his mouth so his breath wouldn't show steam, and wore camouflage so precise that Soviet soldiers often died without ever seeing where the shot came from. The Soviets feared him to the point they placed a bounty on his head, deployed elite counter-snipers, and even launched full artillery strikes just to eliminate one man. He survived every attempt and kept increasing his tally. During the 100 days of the Winter War, Häyhä recorded over 500 confirmed kills. Simo Häyhä is still regarded as the greatest sniper to ever exist, with the highest confirmed kill count in history. Alvin C. York, United States, the one-man army of the Argonne.
Alvin York was born in 1887 in rural Tennessee and grew up hunting in deep woods, giving him calm aim and perfect trigger discipline. In 1918, during the Meuse-Argonne offensive, he joined a 17-man squad sent to neutralize German machine gun nests hidden throughout the Argonne forest. When they moved behind enemy lines, multiple German MG-08s opened fire from high ground. 9 Americans died instantly and the survivors were pinned down. York crawled forward alone, using dips in the terrain and fallen logs to flank the gunners from their blind side. 6 German soldiers then rushed him with bayonets. York switched to his Colt 1911 and killed all 6 using controlled back-to-front shots, so none of the attackers realized the men behind them were already dead. A German major stood up and shouted for York to stop shooting, offering surrender. York kept his rifle trained on him as the officer ordered his entire machine gun detachment and nearby infantry to lay down their weapons. By the end, York had personally killed between 20 and 25 German soldiers, captured 132 German troops, and silenced 35 machine guns across the forest strongpoint. He marched every prisoner back to American lines, a single soldier leading more than a full company of Germans. Alvin C. York's feat remains one of the most unbelievable one-man actions in modern warfare.
Marcus Cassius Scaeva, Rome, the centurion who stopped an army.
Marcus Cassius Scaeva served as a frontline centurion under Julius Caesar. His defining moment came during the Battle of Dyrrhachium in 48 BCE, when Caesar's outnumbered army was holding a line of small hilltop forts against a massive Pompeian assault. Scaeva was stationed at one of these redoubts, a tight wooden fort with a narrow breach barely wide enough for 2 men. When Pompey's forces launched a full attack, hundreds of enemy troops surged straight into his position, backed by thousands behind them. Most of the Romans around him were killed or forced back, leaving Scaeva almost entirely alone at the gap. He planted himself in the doorway and turned it into a bottleneck. His shield absorbed over 200 arrows, so many that it became a spiked barricade. One arrow pierced straight through his eye socket, blinding him instantly. Even then, he kept fighting with the gladius in brutal close quarters, killing dozens as he held the entry point by himself long enough for Caesar's troops to counterattack and retake the fort. After the battle, Julius Caesar rewarded him on the spot, declaring Scaeva a man worth an entire cohort.
Egil Skallagrímsson,
Iceland, the Viking who started killing at 7. Egil Skallagrímsson was born around 910 in Iceland to a family known for berserker fury. Violence came naturally to him. At 7 years old, when another boy mocked him during a game, Egil went home, grabbed an axe, returned, and split the boy's skull. That was his first kill. By 12, he was already feared. In a tavern, 2 grown men insulted him. Egil flipped the table, fought both with only a knife, and killed them in front of the entire hall. As an adult, Egil fought as a full berserker. When the fury hit, he charged first, screaming and swinging a heavy axe with enough force to break shields in one blow. His most famous fight came during an assassination attempt. 12 armed men attacked him at night inside a hall. Egil grabbed his axe in the dark, killed the first instantly, dragged the body to block the doorway, and turned the entrance into a choke point. One by one, the attackers pushed in, and he cut all 12 down alone before walking out covered in blood.
Alright folks, thanks for watching. Before you go, tell me where you're from and what stories you want to see next.